Hello everyone. Thank you for your interest in a research titled Who Benefits from Supplier Encroachment in Presence of Manufacturing Cost Learning. This paper recently appeared in the Production and Operations Management Journal. Let us get started. Lately, many of the firms have started selling through their direct channel in addition to selling through retailers. This is what is referred to as supplier encroachment. For example, in New Zealand, Hyundai launched the sale of EV vehicle through the retail channel in year 2016 and started selling them directly in year 2021. But why should a supplier encroach? According to the existing literature, encroachment is always beneficial for the supplier as it allows him to price discipline the retailer and make more profit by limiting the retailer's margin. Well, this suggests that all the suppliers should encroach and sell all their products directly. However, that is not always the case. For instance, in case of LG India, it sells only the older models whose prices have dropped over time through the direct channel. For instance, observe the direct purchase option available for Ultra HD TVs on LG India website. But at the same time, LG does not sell the newer and costly models like NanoCell TVs through the direct channel and sell them exclusively through the retail channel. So the question is, when does a supplier encroach? We find that the supplier encroaches only if the manufacturing cost is sufficiently low. But manufacturing cost is never a constant and it can drop over a period of time due to various factors, maybe due to cost learning. For example, if we consider the case of lithium-ion batteries, the prices have dropped by an average 19% with every doubling of production capacity, which is referred to as cost learning. Going back to our Hyundai example, Hyundai launched its Ioniq electric vehicle in year 2016 through the retail channel, but started selling them directly only after the prices dropped sufficiently enough in year 2020. That is, lower manufacturing cost can induce the supplier to encroach. This results in a retailer's dilemma. In case the retailer increases her sales, that will result in higher cost learning and lower later period manufacturing cost, which can induce the supplier to drop the wholesale price, benefiting the retailer. Or it can also motivate the supplier to encroach, which can hurt the retailer. So the question is, should the retailer support the supplier's cost learning efforts? In case the retailer decides not to support the supplier, it might result in relatively higher manufacturing costs later, which can hurt the whole supply chain. So, should a supplier encroach? And if yes, who benefits from such a supplier encroachment? To answer the above questions, we consider a game theoretical model and find the subgame perfect Nash equilibrium. Here, we define the regions where the supplier or the retailers become better off or worse off as a function of the direct selling cost and the learning rate. Consistent with the literature, we find that the retailer is generally worse off due to supplier encroachment, unless the direct selling cost is intermediate. As a result of which, we find that the supplier encroachment can result in retaliation from the retailer, which can result in lower cost learning and relatively higher manufacturing costs later, which can hurt the whole supply chain, including the supplier. Particularly, we find that if the learning rate, the direct selling cost, or both are low, the supplier generally benefits from encroachment. However, in case the learning rate is high and the direct selling cost is intermediate, the supplier encroachment may backfire to the supplier and may hurt him. Hence, the supplier should pre-commit not to encroach if the learning rate is high and the direct selling cost is intermediate. For instance, Home Depot which is one of the famous retail chain in US, wrote an open letter to its vendors suggesting that they will not purchase from those vendors who open their direct channel. Fearing such retaliation from Home Depot, the suppliers like Casablanca Fan Company and Weber Stephenson Product Company pre-committed to Home Depot that they will never encroach. To summarize, our study reveals that encroachment may be detrimental to the supplier under certain conditions, and hence the practitioners should be careful before adding a direct channel. To learn other such interesting insights from our study, please refer to our paper in the Production and Operations Management Journal. Thank you.